Hey there, I'm Julie, and this is the Married to Addiction podcast. If you're here, then you're probably what I call my secret sister. We're in a situation we never asked to be in and fighting a battle we never wanted to fight. We're faith-filled women who are married to an alcoholic, and it affects every inch of our lives. If that sounds like you, then this is a safe place for you to land. Married to Addiction is a faith-based podcast where I help you find the tools and strength you need to navigate your husband's addiction without losing yourself in the process. So please subscribe and tune in as often as you can, because your husband's recovery is important, but so is yours. I want to share something with you before we start our episode today, especially if you've ever looked into the Secret Sister Circle and thought, this sounds great and all, but I am way too overwhelmed to start something like this. I've made some important changes. In the Secret Sister Circle, we no longer assume that you're ready to learn the moment you arrive. Instead, I assume that you're tired. I assume that you've been bracing for a really long time. So now I guide you through this gentle flow instead. Rest, regulate, choose, learn, and understand. So part of this flow includes some new spaces. There is now a quiet room. There's also a grounding room. And all of the guidance and direction has been redesigned to give you clear, gentle guidance around choosing one thing at a time, not everything. So with this new structure, you are never behind. You don't ever need to catch up, because this space has now been restructured to support tired nervous systems, not overwhelm them. And I would love for you to join me there. You can learn more and join today at secretsisterscircle.com. Hello, and welcome into episode 119 of the Married to Addiction podcast. Today, we're talking about something that is hands down one of the most stressful parts of the day for wives of alcoholics: the evenings. If you live with someone who struggles with drinking, you probably already know the feeling. That tightening in your chest as soon as the sun goes down, or maybe when you're driving home from work, which is when I used to personally start freaking out. That mental bracing for what the night might look like. That exhausted, here we go again, or here we will probably go again, heaviness in your chest. Evenings can feel like the starting bell for chaos. And because you're already worn down from the day, you already have less emotional capacity and less patience and less resilience left in your tank. And for me, all of those things together were just a recipe for disaster. And our evenings when my husband was deep in addiction were always wrought with chaos and fighting, and it was just the worst part of the day for sure. So today I want to give you something extremely practical, and that is a evening action plan that you can use every single night if you need to, so you feel more grounded, more supported, and less overwhelmed when you're heading into the evening. So why are evenings especially hard? Well, aside from the reasons that we just talked about, it's often when drinking ramps up, right? So we already know that it's probably going to be an issue because our husband is probably getting off work too. And this is when the drinking usually starts. So it's predictable. You pretty much know it's coming, but it's still incredibly stressful every single time. So by that time of day, of course, you've been juggling all your responsibilities for hours on end. You're already emotionally fatigued. Your nervous system is frayed, and you're often walking on eggshells already when you hit the front door because you're wondering what version of him you're going to get tonight. So it is no wonder that evenings feel so heavy. But here's the good news. While you can't control whether he drinks, you can create a plan that helps you feel safer, calmer, and more anchored in God's peace, no matter what is happening around you and no matter what your husband is doing. So let's dive into our 3-step evening action plan. The first step is to pre-plan your own evening routine. So have an idea of what the evening is going to look like for you ahead of time. You want to think of this as kind of like your emotional armor for the night. So instead of just waiting to see how things unfold and being at the mercy of that, decide ahead of time how you want to experience your evening. So that can start with choosing like one grounding activity that you can turn to as soon as you sense that drinking has started, or as soon as you hit the door and realize that drinking has already started, which was usually the case for me. So these are things like deciding that you will turn to reading a book. You will do some light stretching. You will do some journaling. You will have a cup of herbal tea. You'll listen to some soft worship music. Maybe you have a hobby that you like to do, like crocheting or coloring or painting. Maybe you'll take a hot shower. So you want to already have an idea ahead of time. When you start feeling like things are ramping up, or when you start getting triggered by the fact that he's already been drinking, before you even are in that space, choose your activity. Then you want to create a calming environment for yourself. So when you get home, you have your activity in mind and you think, okay, I need to start with my environment. So let's say for me, this would look like having a book because I like to read and lighting a candle. So, when you get home, instead of flying off the handle, instead of freaking out, instead of letting him rope you in with whatever kind of chaos, you have a plan, right? And I know this sounds simplistic, but let me tell you, this can be an absolute game changer because you're already thinking in the vein of, I'm going to do something calming. So your nervous system isn't already getting ramped up before you hit the door. So for your calming environment, you could light a candle. You could turn on a lamp. Maybe you have a lamp like by a chair that you like to sit in. Start diffusing some essential oils. Maybe just go put on your PJs if that makes you feel comforted. And you want to have this done ahead of time because when you're making these small choices, you are already starting to signal safety to your body. So you want to think of this as you are choosing to set the tone for your night. You're not being sucked into that he's choosing for the night. So this can be something that you can do beforehand that you already know. Like for me, instead of driving home and the whole way home, just ramping myself up and getting more and more angry and thinking about what I was going to say and thinking about, my plan to leave and all of these types of things, I would have instead been able to choose to have something ahead of time that I knew I was going to do that was signal safety to my body. And instead of getting in that frenzied frame of mind, I would already be ahead of the game by having a calming frame of mind with the plan in place for when I got home. Step 2 is to use environmental boundaries. So this goes hand in hand with step 1. You do not have to stay in the same space as someone who is drinking. As a matter of fact, you shouldn't, because that is usually not going to end well. You are allowed to protect your peace and you are allowed to remove yourself from that space. So if he's downstairs, if you have a 2-story house, go upstairs. If he's upstairs, stay downstairs. If you have a 1-story house, go into the bedroom, go into the bathroom, sit on your back porch, get in the bath. Go in your kids' room and read with them. Maybe go for a walk, whatever needs to happen to remove you from that space. So this is important because if you think to yourself, okay, well, when I get home, I'm going to light a candle and read a book. I'm not going to get sucked into the chaos. Well, if you try to sit down and do that in the living room and he's in the living room watching TV and he's been drinking, you can probably already imagine how that's going to go, right? So knowing where you will go to separate yourself from the chaos is also really important. And you want to make sure that you have some sort of a buffer. So a lot of times I've had people say to me, when I try to do this, he follows me. That was not the case with my husband, thankfully, but I know that does happen sometimes. So if that is something that you deal with, put on some headphones. Pop in some earbuds. Make yourself look unavailable. And a lot of times if, somebody comes into the room and you already are listening to something, that can be one more buffer between you and that person, between you and the emotional noise that can really help. So having a physical space can definitely help with your emotional buffering. A physical space where you go, where you know it's going to be calm and separated. And that type of thing is exactly what your nervous system needs in these moments, especially if you've already been stressed about what you might encounter when you get home. Step 3, you can set a communication boundary. If you are in your space, separated from him, you have on your headphones or you have in your earbuds, and he still comes over and decides that he needs to talk. I've heard this happens sometimes too. The truth is that nothing productive is going to happen when somebody else is under the influence. So trying to have a conversation in that moment, even if he is the one who's initiating it, is almost always going to lead to frustration, confusion, maybe even emotional harm for you if you start fighting or if it ramps up. So, if this is the case for you and you do need to have a communication boundary as well as a physical space separation boundary, you can say something just short and compassionate. I'm not going to talk to you right now about this. Or let's talk tomorrow. I'm trying to read my book. Or we can talk through this when you're sober. Just something short and firm. Something that is going to let him know you are not going to explain yourself. You are not going to try to negotiate, and you don't need to justify. You will just have your script prepared ahead of time with what you are going to say, whatever feels right for you. That is just short and firm and clear, while also being compassionate. You don't want to say something that sounds angry or confrontational, because obviously that's not going to help your case of trying to separate yourself and having some emotional buffering for yourself. So this can definitely come in handy when you are in the house, for sure. But these short little scripts can also come in handy if it's just a text instance where he's trying to rope you into some sort of fight or confrontation via text. But it is great for these types of things when you are trying to plan your evening and you think that he may try to come and talk to you when you have removed yourself from that space. So that is definitely something that you also want to have prepared ahead of time. Sometimes the godliest thing that you can do is to step back or step away and let silence be your boundary. So if you have stepped away, if you have, given your one line, we're not going to talk about this right now, or however it sounds for you, that's it. And then you do not have to continue to have that conversation. Silence can be your boundary. And remember that you're not rejecting him, you're rejecting chaos, right? This is not a personal attack on him. You are just not wanting to and not willing to be a part of the chaos that night. So this plan works because it gives your nervous system predictability. You already have a plan. As simplistic as it sounds, this can really, really make a difference. It gives your nervous system predictability. It also shifts your focus from him and what he's doing and what you need to say to him and all of the things that are wrong with him and all the things that he's doing to make you angry. It shifts your focus from that to you. That's huge. That shift right there is really, really, truly a game changer. It also protects you from emotional whiplash, because if you are just going into that situation loaded for bear or fearful, about what it might end up looking like, if you are afraid that he may be drinking, but you don't know yet, and then you walk in the door and it's worst case scenario and he has been drinking, or maybe you think that he's not going to be drinking because he told you that he wouldn't tonight, and then you come home and you find that he has. Those types of things can really just kind of bowl you over in the moment. So this protects you from that. You have a plan, regardless of what he's doing, whether he's doing great or he's not doing great, whether he is drinking or he's not drinking. You have your plan. It also reminds you that you can choose peace regardless. And that has started before you even hit the door. You have chosen peace. You have chosen what you're going to do. And you know that you are not powerless. You are not trapped. You're not doomed to participate in chaos every night, because you have choices and you have tools. These are tools that you can use. And you have a God who sees you and is right there with you through all of it. So if evenings are especially hard for you, if you find your heart races, if your body tenses, if you are feeling a sense of dread as the night approaches, even before you are in that situation, that is a sign that your nervous system has been living in survival mode. So I wanted to make sure that you know I did a little promo about this at the beginning of the episode, but if you happen to skip through that, I want to make sure that you know that there have been some changes made to the Secret Sister Circle. And we've talked about this recently as far as having some nervous system regulating tools in there. But I've made some additional changes that have taken this space into something so calming and so grounding that I think you really should give it another look. If you have checked it out before and thought maybe this isn't for me right now, I want you to go back and take a look, because these types of things now are the first things that we address. And there are 2 new spaces in the SSC specifically for that. So the first one is called the Quiet Room. You go there first when you join the SSC, and it offers you a much needed space for rest. Do you remember what rest looks like? Do you remember what rest feels like? I hadn't felt rest for years when my husband was addicted, and that may well be the same for you. The second new space is called the Grounding Room. This is where you learn to understand what's happening inside your body. You learn grounding practices that you can use during evening drinking. You learn how to create emotional safety for yourself, regardless of what is happening around you. You shift out of panic and into peace. And you build a foundation for yourself of emotional safety. So everything else feels a lot less scary. Things like boundaries, things like having conversations, all of the different things that we talk about here that are things that you can do that you may not really have felt able to do because you're operating under this nervous system shutdown mode all the time and you don't even realize it. So addressing these types of things is really where your healing starts to begin. You can, of course, join us anytime in the Secret Sister Circle at www.secretsisterscircle.com. When you have all these tools at your disposal and you have this specific actionable direction of things to do, you don't have to face evenings alone anymore. You don't have to face anything alone anymore. You don't have to face any situation where you would normally think, what do I do? Or am I doing this right? Or should I be doing this? Or should I be doing something else? You don't have to do that alone anymore, because the SSC is there for you 24/7 on demand. You can always get the help and support that you need. So as the sun goes down tonight, I want you to remember, you don't have to brace yourself for chaos every evening. That is exhausting. I remember how exhausting that is. You do not have to do that. You can prepare yourself for peace. You now have a 3-step evening action plan that is there for you. God is there for you too. And I am also here for you. Thanks so much for listening. Quick question for you before I let you go today. Have you been to the Married to Addiction website? If you haven't, I would love if you would go pay it a visit. It's just marriedtoaddiction.com. And over there, you can see just a lot of different information about my podcast. There is a blog on there. There's some free resources for you. And there's also a few ways that you can actually get some help if you need a little more help and direction and support as you travel this difficult path with your addicted husband. So if you haven't yet, please go visit marriedtoaddiction.com. Thanks so much.